Hello everybody, this is Steve Birkin of Hybropsyche once again, talking about the ZX Spectrum Vega, the small console that came out a couple of years ago. And what I'm basically going to do is give my opinion on what's the top 10 games out of the 1000 games that are installed on this little device. It looks exactly like a Spectrum, or certainly that kind of configuration. And it features games old and new, because there's a cult of programmers out there for the old Specky, because it's lasted so long. And so it's a bit like a little gaming console you hold in your hand, like a baby Spectrum. And it's also got really long leads, which is brilliant. Basically features the 3 standard phonos or a coax, so you can plug into your telly. I'll just go into a bit of a history of this sort of era, because these games were known as the third generation of gaming. Today's TVs and computers are either 64-bit and HD, etc. The first generation was in the early 70s, going into the 70s, with things like the Odyssey and the ping pong games, etc., with, I believe, were 2-bit graphics then. The second generation were such as the Atari 2600 and Philips G7000 computers or gaming consoles that had sort of 4-bit graphics. The third generation, which is our concern at the moment, were the 8-bit computers. The difference between these computers and what we have now is these were known as home computers rather than personal computers, because these days you can buy a computer, especially a desktop, and configure it to exactly what fits your purpose. So you can get a stronger graphics card if you're an artist or an animation person, or you can get a stronger sound card if you're a musician or a rapper even. So the computers that were out in those days, you basically bought the one that not only suited your pocket but also had the nearest specifications to what you wanted. So some of those computers were the Auric 1 and Auric Atmos, the Dragon 32, the Acorn BBC, which obviously got the contract for the schools. I've actually got a BBC emulator, and obviously its younger brother, the cheaper version called the Electron, the Sinclair Spectrum, Commodore 64, and the late coming Amstrad CPC range. But I'll go now through the 4 main competitors, because back in the day we were all at school saying which kind of computers were the best, etc. And there were 4 main contenders, shall we say. So I'll go into a sort of a little bit of a spec on each of these computers, and probably sort of describe the kind of people who bought them. First of all, the Commodore 64. One thing about the Commodore 64, which was really good, of course, was the 64K of RAM, because computers were either 16K expandable to 32 or 48. So the Commodore, there was a Commodore 16, but the Commodore 64 was, it was a good gaming machine, definitely, because all these computers were capable of displaying 16 colours at any given time, but most of them only had a 16 colour palette. The Commodore 64 did have 16 colours, your first set being your main primary and secondary colours, and a second set being things like browns and oranges and greys and that type of thing. But the one thing where a Commodore would piss on any computer was the sound chip, and it was known as the SID chip, which had synthesizer kind of sounds rather than just beepy sort of sounds, etc. And I was really disappointed that so many computers were released and so many Spectrums were released that just had the beepy kind of thing, but I'll come into that a bit later. But the kind of people who bought Commodore 64s were usually people who were quite well off in our sort of area. They were still working class, but they might have been well-paid jobs on no railways, even miners at that time, or business managers, so etc. I would have loved to have been able to get hold of a Commodore 64 and have a go at programming the sound, but I never quite got to through the bouncers on that one. Yeah, it was quite universal, Commodore, as well. It was sort of business-like, but I think the kind of flashiness of it probably made it steer more to being a gaming console than what its other capabilities were. The BBC Model A and B, these were incredibly versatile. They had lots of ports that you could do expansions on. You could do all sorts of things with them. It's not surprising they won the school contract, to be quite honest. 32k of memory. I think I'm sure you could expand on it, because you had, like I say, you had all sorts of ports on that. And they were sort of the entry-level business computer. They were used for gaming as well. They had 3 channels of sound, like the Commodore 64 had 3 channels of sound, but it was the beepy sort of sound, but you could change the volumes on it as well, like you could on the Commodore. And it had a 4th effects, sort of white noisy channel. The Commodore 64 still had the better range in the effects as well. So yeah, and it had what was called 16 colours, which were a bit of a rip-off, because it basically had your basic 8 primary colours, and then 8 of those colours again flashing. So it weren't really fair to say it got 16 colours, but you could display them all at once. And again, it was sort of entry-level business people that kind of got these for their kids. There were certainly some Ponzi prima donnas when it came to the BBC Micro. Amstrad CPC range. Now, I didn't really know anybody at school who had one of these. The Amstrad company had been watching what had been going off with the market, and basically took lots of attributes of such as Commodore, BBC and Specky, and made a fairly affordable computer that had sort of like the best elements of all of them. The Amstrad actually had a palette of 27 colours, which was better than any of the computers at the time. So yeah, it was a pretty good all-rounder computer. Like I said, I didn't know anybody at school who had those, because they came out a wee bit later in the 3rd generation era. They had the 3-channel sound, the AY chip, which was 3 channels of the sort of beeps, but you could do the volumes on it, and you had some sort of unlimited effects on it, but mainly white noise that you could work with. The ZX Spectrum. Well, we had a Spectrum. These were very compact, little, elegant machines, and the idea of Clive Sinclair was, let's make these things affordable, and that he did. We wouldn't have been able to have a computer if it weren't for being able to get a Spectrum, and that sort of introduced me and my dad into sort of programming. One geeky sort of alert here, or footnote, is for anybody who's watched Star Trek The Voyage Home. At the point that Kirk in the Klingon vessel that they've nicked has gone through the time warp and everything's all switched off and the computer's not functioning, etc., the sound that they've got for the Fritzing TV or the Fritzing screen in the background is the sound of a Spectrum tape loading signal, and the basic sound at that. So there's a geeky observation for you. There were gaming machines, and because they opened the market, these things had lots of peripherals as well. They were limited in lots of ways, but in other ways they ended up having the most software out of the range. And the things about the Spectrum, it did have 16 colours in a more convincing way than what the BBC did, as in it had the first 8 primary colours, and then it had the same again but brighter. But I suppose you could call it 15 colours really, because you couldn't get bright black. So yeah, that gave a bit more, but you still were missing things like browns and oranges for your games. Sometimes you could get dark red looking a bit like brown, or sometimes light red and look a bit like orange. And the sound was probably the letdown of the 16 and 48k Spectrums, because it was just a beepy speaker thing. You couldn't control the volume of it, and also if the sound was playing there'd be no movement, which I'll come into a bit later on. The later versions of the Spectrum did employ the AY chip, and I've forgot to also say about the Spectrum having what was known as the characteristic colour clash. Other computers, any other computer really, could involve having more than one colour of pixels in the same area, whereas a Spectrum couldn't do that, as you will see in some of the games here. Yeah, the sound was a bit naff, but it was well used, which I will come on to when we start reviewing these games. The later Spectrums also had the AY chip, as what the Amstrad did, and every iteration of Spectrum seemed to have the AY chip, which in a way is great for reverse compatibility, but I really wish they could have maybe done something like have one AY chip and one SID chip. That would have been brilliant. So now, finally, over to the top 10 Spectrum games that I've picked from the Vega. I've tried to go from the earliest possible games through some of the 48K games that push the boundaries and into some of the later games with the advanced sound. 10. Eric and the Floaters, which is not as rude as it sounds. This is from 1983, and obviously it's dead simple, but it's incredibly addictive. You've got to basically bomb those balloon things that are coming at you, but they're quite smart, as you'll see. They kind of taunt you a bit, and you think they're going to come after you, then they don't. They wait around for you. Look, you're naked, think it's going to come any moment. It's come for me. Oh, and it's got me. So, but yeah, I think the only thing that's a bit disconcerting is it changes. You get a random position every time you get a new life. But yeah, so you drop these kind of Napoleonic bombs, and yes, I would have completed that level if I'd not blown myself up as well. But yeah, it's really catchy little game for 1983s. Yeah, and I really do enjoy it. 9. Checkered Flag from 1983 from Sine. Yeah. It's pretty good, this. I mean, you can obviously see there you get a chance to choose your own circuit that you're going to be racing in. You're going to be racing against yourself. There's only one car, which is yourself there. And you get to choose which car you want. So, you know, I've just put the demo version on here instead, so we're just using them. Yeah, you could pick from stuff like, you know, Volkswagen Placenta, etc. I've got an Atari an Atari 2600 at the time, so I was used to 4-bit graphics, and I was amazed by pole position. And then I saw this 8 graphics, more colourful version. It even has the idea of going over hills, just a brief little hill, which was quite unique for the time. The sound, as you can tell, as I said before, the Spectrum couldn't do sound and movement at the same time, which is why you got da-da-da-da-da-da sort of sound, which is a shame. As a continual thing, it would sound like a fairly good engine approximation. There's also oil and water and glass and rocks on the road, so yeah, it's, even though there's no other cars, you've got to watch it. But yeah, great game for its time. 8. Frankenstein. Now this is supposed to be a reboot. I think the only difference is, yeah, he makes that noise. Now there is a slightly different one, but yeah, it's not Manic Miner. But yeah, you basically, here you are at the top. You have to drop down here. You can't climb or jump or anything. The only time you can jump is on those little purple springs there. So yeah, your aim is to collect the body parts and move round. And but you've got to collect him in a certain order. Obviously, you can't collect his head and then one of his feet or something like that. So yeah, so all about timing, this one. So drops down, whoops, on the ice there, and moves along. So you got to watch out for these light bulbs. They only get you once, but oh baby, get down. Yeah, they do catch you. So yeah, he's going to be stuffed here because he's not going to be able to get back up. Oh no, he's dropped down. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, so here we go. He's going to have a go at trying to jump up this level before that nasty comes back for him. But look, here you go. You're on the spring, but you've got to be properly positioned. And yeah, he never used to blow up like that. That's the new version. But yeah, so just grab another go. So there you go, on the spring, straight through. That's fine. But and the other option, that test tube that you see there, you've got to jump up. You can slide down the test tubes. So yeah, got another body part there. Slide down there quickly. Whee! And yeah, can he do it? Yeah, no, didn't quite make it. But yeah, it's again, it's a good little addictive game, and I used to love platform games anyway. I still do. So yeah, that's Frankenstein.
7.
Savage, Probe Software. Now this came out in the sort of must have been about 1990, I think this was. But this is one of them that really sort of like pushes the boundary to the 48. You can obviously see the bits of colour clash in those spherical objects, but they've done a good job of light and shade there. Monochrome shade to get the approximation of 3 dimensions. And they've done quite a well, as you can see here, they've done a pretty good job of trying to avoid the colour clash. Oh, it just got done over really quickly there. It's obviously still there, but so in the way this character looks like he's wearing jeans and t-shirt, but yeah, so you go along here, this sort of thing, and almost psychedelic floor there. Oh yeah, it's got a thing. Yeah, it's got a little magical protection there for a short while, and finds this big troll with a big belly and a belly button, a bit like me really. Yeah, didn't do very well there. So, just back to the yeah. Whoops, thank you. Just going to listen to the music here for a moment because this is really well done. Now that sounds multi-channel, but it isn't. It is actually that single beepy sound used in machine code, like so instantaneous that it sounds like lots of sounds. They did a lot of that, and again, talk about making best use of resources. You know what I mean? This was pretty clever stuff. Because I mean, there's quite a lot going off in there, considering it's just one channel there. So go back to the game. Another little shot of me making a mess of it. It's any moment now, I'm sure it is. Well, maybe I just left this on so you can appreciate the tune. Oh, here we go. Yeah, you have these little quips dropping down. So yeah, again, they do quite a good job of sort of getting round the colour clash a wee bit. There we go, the old troll again. Yeah, so just blast him to death. Must have big pockets with all these axes. But yeah, fantastic. Yeah, so the next bit. Just running along here a bit longer. Yeah, so you jump up on this bit and you get this very helpful advice. Don't fall. So I did. And then I did again. Whoops. That was Savage. Great game. Brilliant game.
6.
Technocop. Not looking very well there, is he? But working around the colour clash again. The colour clash is your friend. This is actually featuring the 1:8 sound, the AY chip. So you will see in this game that you can get sound and movement at the same time without one interrupting the other. So 3-channel sound here. Now, I've only just discovered this game the other day, to be honest. But so what you've got here, first of all, which is what I do like about it, is this first bit. Don't sort of take much notice of my gameplay because it's bloody hard to steer. I can find it really difficult to steer this thing. This unusual sort of monochrome for a car chasing situation. So yeah, I think you got to blow these cars up here. So yeah, the effects of the AY chip coming in there. And after so long, oops, yeah, just run myself off the road there. Yeah, because I keep coming at you. But yeah, pretty smooth flowing graphics. I do struggle with this monochrome business myself, to be honest. This is why normally all the games I pick are the ones with the sort of like the highest contrast. So now he's pulling over to get some chips. But now this other aspect, this second aspect of the game, yeah, is now in a sort of a shoot 'em up situation. So rather than just being a complete car chase situation, you've got this other element of it, which is again, obviously not very good at this, but especially the monochrome, I have real trouble seeing that myself. But yeah, definitely a good game. Not much more I can say about it. Combination of 1 to 8 sound and really good playability because you've got more than one platform to it.
5.
Impossible. I forgot to say on the last, by putting the Technocop in, it was because I was trying to find Monty Mole, and I have played it on the Vega, but can I ever find it? They must have given it a different name. But so this is not immediately obvious that it's a kind of part of the Monty Mole saga, but it's still a good little game. Making use of the 128's AY chip there, there you go, shoot that Skelly Bob, that's it, get him out at the wood. The way people have made best use of resources using strange yellowy shady things to almost get a brown colour, these things don't go unnoticed with me, so well done, the graphics people. So yeah, let's move out of the way, that thing. One thing to watch on the Spectrum Vega, which is what I just did then, is when you're pressing the arrow keys left and right, if you press the top of them, it's like a joystick pad, you'll jump as well. So if you're pressing left and right, make sure you press the middle of the left and right arrows if you don't want to jump. So you can, so basically you've got your positions. It's just a nice atmospheric little game, good sort of forestry scenes, etc. Just moved on a wee bit there. And we get to the next part where lots of things can kill you. I mean, it's obviously, you only have one life, but obviously, your energy goes down if you come in contact with those as well, just there. Don't lose me down. And then, there is a mad dusty bin thing there that blows up eventually if you get, rather than trying to shoot him because you can't. Yeah, you got your bazooka thing there, so you blow that farmer away with about 5 shots. So, like I say, it's not immediately obvious until now that it might be part of the Monty Mole saga, because the good old steam press thing coming down at you. So, yeah, great game. I'm about to die. Oh, there we are. But yeah, great game. Really do like it. And there you got the 1 to 8 sound again there. In fact, throughout this game.
4.
Xenon. Good bit of fuzz, this, actually. Yeah, when it moves. There we go. Yeah. Xenon or Xenon, one of these very sort of typical kind of 80s style strafing kind of games. Now this is the problem with Spectrums, again, because you couldn't have too much colour all next to each other, but especially for this kind of smooth scrolly stuff. You would literally have, well, you basically got shades of cyan and black there using the pixels to shade with. I do struggle with it, to be quite honest, but it is a good game. I have watched other people play it and do really well. So yeah, this has got the 1 to 8 sound again, and the sound that you got there, I'll just leave you sitting here and let you listen to the music if I show up for long enough. Check out this echo here. That's 2 channels working together to give the impression of echo, one slightly behind the other, of course. But yeah, it is a good game. It's not something I can do very well, I'm afraid, but certainly can't fault it. So this is Xenon, or Xenon. What I also should have said there was the act of the 1 to 8's AY chip doing some of the firing sounds, but the 48K sound is still used for part of the explosion. So it's you could almost say that a Spectrum at this point had sort of 4 channels of sound.
3.
Egghead. I think this is a fairly new one, to be honest. But yeah, making use of the 1 to 8 sound. It's not about the sound so much with this one, but yeah, it's a platform game. Okay, it's not Manic Miner. But as you can see with this one, it's all about collecting keys, yeah, so it's similar to Manic Miner in that case, seeing as though we haven't got it on the Vega. But there's no margin for error when it comes to these sentinels, that you see. And that. And that. And that, yes. So here's how you do it. So there's a certain order in which you can do these, because you can't, it's one of these, you can't fall from great heights either with this particular character, with him being an egg, I suppose. So collect the old keys. So there we go, that's got to be the last key. And I've managed to get to about level 5 on this, but it is, like I say, it's very sort of precise. So watch what you do here. Like, you mean, you drop down this bit here. Coming back up again, you've got to make sure you miss that thing. And to try and jump onto that wall at the top there. But yeah, brilliant game.
2.
Well, it's got to be done, hasn't it? Jetpack. We're back to 1983, and this was a 16K game. And I think anybody who reviews Spectrum stuff will be including this game. I don't normally do things because everybody else has done it. I'm not that kind of person. But this is fantastic. Very addictive game. Very sort of simple and effective, but very elegant. So we're talking 16K. We're talking 1983. And I suppose one funny thing to notice is when I stop shooting, I'm just shooting to make sure I don't get blown up. The explosions, yes, this is again is the result of sound and movement, one occurring at the expense of the other. But it happens quickly. This game sounds a lot like diarrhea. So, but as you can see, what you have to do, you have to build your rocket first of all, and add fuel to it, and if you stand in that top right hand corner, and we used to have joysticks with auto fire on, you could just, on this first level, you could just clock up a score and not go anywhere if you wanted to do, if you really fancied doing that. But yeah, so this first level, as you can see, this has meteors that are fairly random in their course. But see something else I was going to say about this. So get this, yeah, get some more fuel here. But little features like even the little puff of explosion when you lift off the ground there, like that, and the aspect of which was definitely good for the time, the aspect of like slipping off the platform. So there we go. We finished level 1, and yeah, again it's 16K, so you're not going to get massive new levels and everything. Your rocket comes back down, you've assumedly landed on another planet or another part of the planet, and this time instead of I got done in straight away there. Instead of meteors, you now got done in twice. I don't know. Yeah, so you get bouncy sort of alien things that just bounce in a sort of diagonal random pattern again. But as you go on, each level, they get a little bit more intelligent. So the next level is these balloony things that kind of, they do sort of follow you around, and then you get jets that fly in the direction that you were at. And then, yeah, and then the next one is, whoops, I'll just check that holes under that platform there, yep. That's fine. The next one is like flying saucers that do follow you around everywhere, and that's as far as I've got with the game. I know I think there's another level before that, but after a while as well, I think it's on the jets level that instead of this rocket, you again get to build the space shuttle Columbia, because that was obviously quite a thing at the time. That launched in 1981. But yeah, I am spending a lot of time on this game, but it's just a real brilliant bit of programming, and everybody who had a Spectrum remembered it. So yeah, well done. Ultimate for one of those games where things fly into you and splat, like that.
Honourable mention.
Now then, I'm calling this an honourable mention, but it's more like an honourable plea. I can't for bloody life of me figure out this game. It's got one control, which is jump, which you leap. Now, those nasties, when you jump over those nasties, it moves you a little bit further than if you jumped normally. So you've obviously got to, and it's all about timing. Everything is about timing with this game. And in a way, it's quite addictive. But I mean, watch what happens here. I timed this wrong, so that's it. Oh no, I got through. But this, I have never got past. You've got this one brick down here, so you land on there. If you trying to jump under those things, I'm not sure if it moves you any further. But there's no means. I mean, look at that. Look how you straight down. I've had a few goes at this, and you jump over that. It gives you a bit more leapage. Whoops, see, then you jump too soon because you can't jump high enough to get over those if you're on the bottom level. And yeah, it looks like it'd be a really good game, but it's obviously strictly all about timing. And I tell you, I'd be buggered if I can figure it out. And if anybody can, do let me know. There you go. So that's Castle Quest.
1.
Yay! The Abbey of Death. Maybe a surprising choice for some people, but I really do like this game. I only discovered it on the Spectrum Vega, so really well done. This is one of those games you can control how you jump in the air. So you jump up in the air and then you can move whatever you want. So yeah, you first of all get chased by zombie monks of some sort, and so you got this sort of 1 to 8 music there again, and that little thing on the bottom, that's your checkpoint that you just walk through. So yeah, here we go. Colour clash, definitely there. Up to the levels, and yeah, here's you controlling your jumps for little levels. But no, it's the atmosphere of this is really, really good. I really do like it. You ring that bell to let yourself into more levels than before, and yeah, you can drop down this hole. But yeah, definite colour clash there. That's a good old Spectrum. So that's the first time I've missed that scroll, so I'll jump back up and collect it. Yeah, something about some brothers. But yeah, it's fairly precise again how you play this one, and you'll see in a minute when you get on to the next level. There's a few times where when you normally have things moving up and down that you've got to avoid, when you've got 2 of them and they're moving at alternate speeds, that's quite hard. It's not so bad there. Oh, there you go, there's your checkpoint. So when you die now, you'll come back to that point. And it's the only time you hear the 48k sound used there as well. Now, yes, you've got Evil Otto coming to get you, so you've literally got to drop down there. But this is another example of timing. Quite a lot of emphasis on timing for this. I have sussed it this time, but I've edited out all the times I died doing this. But yeah, you do one lucky thing, you do have a lot of lives on this. But yeah, it's a great game, really atmospheric and everything. I really do like it. So that was the Spectrum Vega and my top 10, or my opinions of them. Please feel free to comment, please do. I've been Hybropsyche. Also check out my other videos on YouTube and other bits and bobs that I've been doing. So until then, good night, God bless, and take care of your eyebrows.